Canadian Broadcasting Corporation presents the first of a 5-part series based on Pierre Berton's book, Klondike. Prepared for radio by Bill Fraser, produced and directed by Fred DeYelle, with original music composed and conducted by Tommy Banks. And starring the author himself as our host and guide, writer-broadcaster Pierre Berton.
From the very moment of its discovery, the story of gold in the Klondike is a tale of bitter ironies. In this awesomely remote corner of the continent, fortune seemed totally capricious. But this wasn't entirely true, because the story of the Klondike is essentially the story of human character.
Klondike by Pierre Berton. Part 1, The Big Strike.
I tell you, it was George Carmack was responsible for the gold rush. He was the first one to make a big strike in the Klondike.
Hell, you say. Carmack wasn't even a prospector. Bob Henderson was the man that should get the credit. And remember, Henderson was a Canadian. Carmack was a Yankee squawman.
Anyway, Carmack was asleep when the gold was found. Two of his Indian friends really should get the credit.
That's only a story. Anyway, the discovery claim was made.
When I was a boy in the Yukon, the name of Henderson was very familiar. There were two Hendersons at school with me. One played, I remember, Santa Claus in the Christmas play. These were the grandchildren of Robert Henderson, who, it was argued, was the real discoverer of gold in the Klondike. In 1896, the Klondike was just an Indian salmon stream. Most of the prospectors who were filtering into the Yukon Valley ignored it. Actually, as it turned out, there was no gold on the Klondike itself. The ceaseless erosion of 5 million years, which ground down the original veins into nuggets and dust and fine flour, had deposited this treasure higher up in the faster-flowing tributary streams that ran into the main river. But in August of 1896, nobody suspected that. Least of all, George Washington Carmack, fishing for salmon with his Indian relatives at the mouth of the Klondike River.
Hello, Bob.
George?
Where in the world did you drop in from? Where do you think you're heading?
Just come down to Yukon. From Ogilvy. Going up the Klondike.
What's the idea, Bob?
Oh. Good Lord, isn't that just like you, Carmack? Fishing, when there's gold to be found. You know, you're getting to be more like a Siwash every day.
Well, that's good. Glad you noticed it. Anyway, why should I break my back panning for gold? Damn little good it's done you, Henderson. Been in this country, what is it, 6 or 7 years?
About that.
What have you got to show for it?
May have something this time. There's been a prospect found on a small creek that heads up against the dome. I've named it Gold Bottom. I think it empties into the Klondike about 15 miles up from the mouth here. Looking for a better way to get there than going over the mountains from the Indian River.
Yeah, well, good luck. Me, I like fishing. Come on and have some tea.
The geology of free gold is mathematical. If the water moves swiftly enough, it carries the gold along with it. When the current slackens, the gold begins to sink. The coarser gold first, then the fine dust, and then the flour gold. It's caught in the crevices of the bedrock, and there it lies as eons pass, as stream courses change, as silt and rotting vegetation piles up on top of it. The prospectors call this elusive channel of gold the pay streak. For all of his life, Bob Henderson had been seeking the pay streak of his dreams.
What are chances to locate up there? Everything staked?
Well, yeah. There's a chance for you, George. But I don't want any damn Siwashes staking on that creek. And if you were smart, you'd stop living like an Injun and start living like a white again.
Yeah, well, that's my business, isn't it?
I suppose. Well, I better push off. Be seeing you.
Here, I'll give you a shove.
Thanks, George. Bye now.
Good luck, Henderson.
I heard that, Carmack. What's the matter with that white man? Him kill Injun moose, Injun caribou, catch Injun gold, Injun country. No like Injun state claim. What for? No good.
Ah, never mind, Skookum Jim. This is a big country. We don't need his creek. We'll go find one of our own.
As a boy, I wandered over these same hills and picnicked beside the same streams. By then, the Klondike was a huge junkyard, choked with the paraphernalia of the stampede. The hills were denuded of timber. The benchland had been torn apart by hydraulic nozzles. The stream beds were choked with mountains of gravel tailings, left behind by the dredges following the pay streak, which wriggled like a snake back and forth across the broad valleys, 10, 20, 30 feet or more beneath the blanket of mud and gravel. But in 1896, this was virgin land, unexplored and unravaged.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune.
Hey, George, what for you talk at that cultist wah-wah?
It's all right, Charlie. All prospecting is a gamble. I make 'em Boston man's medicine.
George, why we no do more prospecting here along Rabbit Creek? We find some color and pan when we try.
Well, that's your trouble, Skookum Jim. You want to be like a white man. You want to be a prospector.
Gold here. You know it. I know it. Take us, Charlie. He know it.
Sure, there's gold here. So how much good does it do most of the prospectors? Hell, man, we can do better living like we do. We don't have to live off grub stakes and handouts from traders. We make our own way, don't we?
Yeah.
Let's climb to the top of the divide and see if we can spot Henderson's party.
When you stand, as Carmack did, on what is now called King Solomon's Dome, and half close your eyes, you can see the land as it looked millions of years ago. All the hills are of equal height. From the higher dome, the gold-bearing creeks of the Klondike radiate out like the spokes of a wheel. Creeks with names like Last Chance and El Dorado, Gold Bottom and Bonanza, which in 1896 was known as Rabbit Creek.
We're top of the divide now. Hey, see? Smoke down there.
Henderson, I bet. Don't like that man. No way.
Well, boys, we got this far. Let's go down and see what he's got.
Like most of the early prospectors who infiltrated the Yukon Valley in the 80s and 90s, fleeing ahead of civilization, Robert Henderson was obsessed by the search for gold. He'd pursued it all over the world, from his native Nova Scotia to Australia to Colorado to Alaska and to the Yukon. He was a driven man, determined, stubborn, wildly optimistic. He was proud of being a prospector. To him, that was the only possible existence. There's much that's admirable about Henderson. After all, his kind opened the frontier of this country. But his weakness was that very pride. He felt himself to be an exclusive member of a prospecting elite, and a white elite at that.
Well. If it isn't Siwash George.
Oh, Bob. How are your prospects here?
Oh, not bad. Not bad at all. We're taking about 20 cents to the pen.
I see.
For God's sakes, Carmack, why'd you bring those damned Injuns with you? You know how I feel about having them stake on this creek.
Well, who says they're going to stake on your creek?
They're too damn lazy to live. Why should they profit from my sweat?
No, they're not all lazy. Anyway, you don't have to worry. I never said anything about us staking here. We're going back over to Rabbit Creek to cut timber. We just came over to see how you were doing.
Well, thanks anyway. But I think you'd be smarter to prospect along Rabbit Creek than to cut trees. You never know what you might find over there.
Well, I imagine we'll try a few pans. But we'll end up making more from the timber.
Henderson, you have tobacco?
Yeah.
Sell me a little?
No. Sorry. We hardly got enough for ourselves.
Damn lie that. No sell Injun.
Don't call me a liar, you bloody son of a-
Hey, stop it, you two. If Bob says he hasn't enough to sell, he hasn't.
Jim, don't forget. Now remember, long time.
No sense standing here arguing. We have to get back over to Rabbit Creek and make camp tonight.
As you say, Carmack. And remember, if you're smart, you'll do some prospecting along Rabbit Creek. And I'd sure appreciate if you let me know what the prospects are. If you hit anything good, you'll get a double claim by right of discovery. Me, I'd be willing to settle for a single. What do you say? You'll let me know?
Yeah, I'll let you know. Well, we better make tracks. So long now. We'll see you.
Glad to see you anytime, George. Can't say the same thing for your Siwash friends, though.
Let's not start that again.
Goodbye, Carmack.
Betcha he got a lot of tobacco.
Probably.
Bet you Skookum Jim just as good white man as Henderson, if he want to be.
Jim wants to be a white man, don't you, Jim? Well, why in hell you do is beyond me.
Be better damn prospector than me. I show him.
For 8 months out of 12, the Yukon Valley was sealed off from the world. The prospectors at the mining camps of 40 Mile and Circle City existed as if in a vacuum. Because they were totally dependent upon each other, they had a code of their own, which was inviolate. A code enforced, when necessary, by the device of the miners' meeting. It was part of that code that you never lock the door of your cabin. A half-frozen traveler might need to use it. It was also part of the code that when you found gold, you didn't keep it a secret from anybody. Everybody must be given a chance to stake a claim. George Carmack was to break that code. But admittedly, he had provocation. On Rabbit Creek, the pay streak lay hidden under the mosses beneath the permafrost and gravel. But at one point, that pay streak was exposed.
God damn, Charlie. Look. Gold. Lots of gold. Here between the rocks. Oh, George.
He's sleeping. Been sleeping ever since you shoot moose.
Wake him up.
George. Hey, George, wake up. See what Jim catch it. Gold.
Oh, hell, there's gold all around here. That's nothing new.
No, like this. Come see. I show Henderson when I see him. He never catch gold so much.
Now, let's see, Jim. My God. Hey, look at this nugget sticking out of the bedrock. It's as big as your thumb. Hey, look, it's lying between the slabs as thick as cheese in a sandwich. Let's start panning.
How much in pan, George?
I'd say about $4 worth.
That's good.
Good. 10 cents a pan isn't bad in this country. Let's try another pan. Boys, we've got an empty Winchester shotgun shell full of coarse gold. $25 worth, I'd say. In the morning, we'll stake our claims and then start for 40 Mile and register them.
I get 2 lots for catch gold. Huh, George?
Well, now, that's something I never thought of.
Jim first to catch it gold.
Well, that may be right in a way, Charlie. But I doubt if Jim being an Indian, they'd recognize his right of discovery.
You say you're all the same as Indian? Say you want to be chief of Tiger's tribe, like Wife's daddy?
What, I'm not really an Indian, you know that. So does Tagus Charlie here, don't you, Charlie?
Well, seem you not. Not now, no how.
Anyway, we can settle that in the morning. We have to go tell Henderson, I suppose. After all, I promised to let him know if we found anything.
No. Damn no. That white man no like Injun no catch gold. No want Injun stake claim. No stake claim was Skookum Jim catch gold.
Oh, just a minute, Jim.
No. You hear Jim. You hear good. You tell Henderson, and I tell at 40 Mile you not catch gold. I catch gold. Taggart Charlie tell same. You know, tell Henderson we'll let you take 2 lots.
Oh, Jim, I'll have to think about that.
Fast, white man.
Oh, it's settled. In the morning we state our claims. 2 lots for me by right of discovery, 1 each for you boys. Then we'll go to 40 Mile and register them. My God. I'll be a wealthy man. Bob Henderson's right. I've been living like an Indian. I only came here to get away from all the dirt I was handed on the outside. Now I won't have to take it anymore. Now I can go back and live like a real white man. There, that should do it. I do this day locate and claim by right of discovery 500 feet running upstream from this notice. Located this 17th day of August, 1896.
Along the high bank of the Yukon River, at the point where the 40 Mile River joins it, a weird and lonely mining community existed. Its remoteness from the world can scarcely be comprehended today. The nearest outfitting point, San Francisco, was 5,000 water miles away. 40 Mile was just inside the Canadian border, but the gold diggings which gave it birth were upstream in Alaska. The 40 Milers were all individuals. They had names like Saltwater Jack, Squaw Cameron, Jimmy the Pirate, and Pete the Pig. They were all nomads, stirred by an incurable wanderlust which seized them at the slightest whisper of a new strike, however preposterous. Of course, 40 Mile in my time was only a rotting ghost town, because after George Carmack made his strike, the action moved to the Klondike, 50 miles upstream.
Where you been, George?
Oh, up the Klondike away.
Oh, hear anything about Henderson's strike? He's supposed to be somewhere around there.
Yeah, I left him 3 days ago.
Hey, what do you think of it, eh?
Well, I don't like to be a knocker, but I don't think much of it.
Oh, you wouldn't advise us to go up there.
No, because I got something better for you.
We're going to hear a big one from Lion George.
Give me a double whiskey.
You sure you got money, George?
There's a big strike upriver, and I'm in it.
Oh, strike hell. That's no news. Why, that's just a scheme of those traders, Ledoux and Harper, to cash in on Henderson and start a stampede upriver. Yeah. They'll make money on outfits. It's all bluff.
I see. Oh. How's that for bluff? And I'm not talking about Henderson's prospects. I told you what I thought of that. No, boys, you're a way off. Neither Ledoux nor Harper know anything about this.
Hey, then where did you get the gold dust, George?
I got this empty shotgun shell filled in a few minutes over on Rabbit Creek.
My God, there must be $25 worth of coarse gold dust there.
Is that some Miller Creek gold that Ledoux gave you?
Oh, I know Miller Creek. That gold ain't from there. I'll bet on that. Where'd you get it, George?
I told you, on Rabbit Creek, near the fort.
How about buying a girl a drink, honey?
No time now. I'm heading over to register my claim. A discovery claim.
I'll be damned if I've ever seen dust like that around here before. It sure ain't from Miller Creek. Ain't from Davis, nor from Glacier either. By God, boys, George may be telling the truth. We may have a real strike, a real bonanza. Yeah.
Rabbit Creek!
Well, come on, let's get
going. And they never called George Carmack Lying George or Siwash George again. Up and down the Yukon Valley, the news of the strike spread like a great stage whisper. It moved as swiftly as a breeze in the birches and more mysteriously. Men squatting by nameless creeks heard the tale, dropped their pans, and headed for the Klondike. Some didn't hear the news at all, but drifting past the Klondike's mouth, saw the boats and tents and gesticulating figures, felt the hair rise on their napes, and then, still uncomprehending, still unbelieving, joined the clamoring throng, pushing through the weeds and muck of Rabbit Creek. Almost everybody in the country knew there was a big strike. Almost everybody, that is, except Bob Henderson.
Well, where have you boys been?
Over on Bonanza Creek.
Bonanza Creek? I thought I knew every stream around these parts. Where's Bonanza Creek?
Back over the hill there, across the divide.
Rabbit Creek. What have you got there? Must be really something if you change the name to Bonanza.
Well, we've got the biggest thing in the world.
Who found it?
George Carmack.
Carmack? Carmack. That damn squaw man. He's not even a prospector. That no-good white Siwash. He promised. He promised to let me know if he found anything worthwhile. I was the one who told him to prospect Rabbit Creek.
Well, he sure struck it big.
And part of it should have been mine.
The Klondike's going to make history. You can bet on that.
With what?
The new strike drained the 2,000-mile Yukon Valley of men. Deep in Alaska, the largest log town in the world, Circle City, known as the Paris of the North, gave up the ghost as its inhabitants joined the stampede. And on the strip of frozen swamp where Henderson had come upon Carmack and his relatives drying the salmon, a new town, Dawson City, sprang into being.
Hey, folks, look who's here. Good old George Carmack, the gent who discovered Klondike gold. Gonna buy this prospector a drink, Hans?
Sure, Gertie, sure. Say, I bet you pan more gold in here than most of the men do out on Bonanza or El Dorado.
Not doing bad, Georgie boy. Not bad at all.
What's new, George? Huh? Oh, not much. Just left the boys working up on the claim. I heard Dick Lowe took nearly $46,000 out of that traction claim of his in 8 hours.
We'll all be rich. What are you drinking, George?
Best whiskey you got, Sam. Oh, and one for Gertie here.
Coming right up.
Yeah, Skookum Jim's doing real fine. Real fine. Anyone seen Bob Henderson these days?
Oh, he's been sick all winter. He's got a bad leg, I understand.
Funny. Henderson prospecting in this country for years, and he's got nothing out of this strike. Worked himself almost into the grave, too. Well, then there's big Alec McDonald buying up property and laying it off for others to work. And well on his way to being the wealthiest man in the North.
And then there's little Gertie here.
Don't you worry about me. Gertie's working her claim. And, honey, it's a rich one.
Well, once the news of this strike is outside, there'll be a stampede to share the wealth. You and the other girls in Dawson will have plenty of competition.
Everyone in Dawson. Everyone in the country's going to have competition. But don't worry, boys. There'll be plenty to go around.
Those of us who are here now should do all right if we play it smart.
I wonder about poor Bob Henderson.
Henderson. He sure as hell should never have insulted those Siwashes.
What have the Indians got to do with Henderson's rough luck?
Oh, nothing really. I was just talking to myself. Forget it. Set him up again, Sam.
Okay.
You'll have another, Gertie. That I know.
I sure will.
Bob? How are things?
No, not too bad, Harry. Not too bad. Leg's healing pretty good, but I just can't seem to get around like I used to.
Well, you've sure had it rough. No doubt about that. Oh, George Carmack sent his regards along.
Real nice of him. Carmack. Every time I hear the name of that white Siwash, I get sick.
What's all this about Siwashes anyway? Carmack mumbled something to the effect that you shouldn't have insulted them.
So that's why he double-crossed me. By
God, I sure should have known Carmack was one of them.
What's that?
Someday I'll be recognized. That white Indian and his Siwash friends will be showing up for the cheats they are. Someday Bob Henderson will be recognized as the man who really discovered Klondike gold.
Well, I don't really know what you're talking about, Bob.
All I wanted was my just due. Nothing more. Those discoveries rightly belong to me. And I'll contest him as a Canadian as long as I live.
Oh, I bet you should do well from the Hunger Creek claim.
I might have. But I had to sell out to pay my medical bills.
Oh. Well, I don't know what to say, Bob. You sure had it rough. Fate's dealt you a rotten hand.
Yeah. Fate had lots of help stacking the deck. Help from Carmack and those Siwashers.
Robert Henderson took $1,100 out of Yukon, and that was stolen from him before he reached Seattle. Belatedly, the Canadian government recognized him as co-discoverer of the Klondike and awarded him a stipend of $200 a month. And all of his life, he continued to look for gold until 1933, when he died of cancer. And at that point, he was still talking wistfully of the big strike he hoped to make. As for the other participants in the first act of the great drama, newfound wealth changed each of them. Carmack, who wanted to be a Siwash, ceased to think of himself as an Indian. He divorced his Indian wife, Kate, married a white woman, became a respected businessman, and a member of the Masonic Order. Tagish Charlie, who wanted to be like a white man, sold his claim and spent the rest of his years operating a hotel. Treated like a white man, he was allowed to drink. One day, when he was drunk, he fell off a bridge and was drowned. Skookum Jim was treated as a white man, too, but this was not enough for him. He wanted to be a white man. And so, though he was getting mining royalties of $90,000 a year, he spent the rest of his life acting out the role of prospector, vainly seeking the mother lode, until his magnificent physique was weakened, and he died worn out in 1916. As I said, the Klondike story is a tale of bitter ironies, and I myself witnessed the most ironic spectacle of all in the summer of 1938 when I was working for the Yukon Consolidated Gold Corporation in a mining camp just over the hill from Gold Bottom Creek. The president of the company, a tiny creature with a white mustache, had come all the way from London, England, to inspect his holdings. I remember he was wearing a director's suit with a starched wing collar, scarcely a suitable garb for the muddy and ravaged valley where we were all working. And so they hired a great bear of a man to carry him on his back across the mud flats so his boots wouldn't get dirty. Now, the man they hired as a beast of burden was Grant Henderson, the son of Robert Henderson. And that allegorical scene, like something out of Pilgrim's Progress, has remained etched in my mind ever since.
Klondike, Part 1, with Pierre Burton. Prepared for radio by Bill Fraser, with original music composed and conducted by Tommy Banks. Michael Ball was heard as George Carmack, and Bill Spearstra as Bob Henderson. This program was made available to this station through the facilities of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation presents the second of a 5-part series based on Pierre Burton's book, Klondike. Prepared for radio by Bill Fraser. Produced and directed by Fred D.L. With original music composed and conducted by Tommy Banks. And starring the author himself as our host and guide. Writer, broadcaster, Pierre Burton.
Every one of us, sometime in our lives, has faced a moment of adversity, the death of a friend, the rejection by a sweetheart, a debilitating illness. But you know, I think the worst blow anyone can sustain is the terrible shock of a sudden, unexpected fortune. As the Klondike Gold Rush proved, few men have the strength to survive that.
Klondike by Pierre Burton. Part 2, Gold is Where You Find It.
Clarence, how's about a drink?
One drink coming up, Belle.
Say, there's Anton Stander coming in the saloon.
Yeah, so it is, Gus.
Here, Anton's just staked a claim for himself up El Dorado Creek. Anton! Hey, Anton! How about drinks for the house, partner? Couldn't hurt your poke now that you're a rich man.
That's right.
House! With what? Can't even buy a drink for myself. I'm broke.
Come on. The Yukon River is unique. It rises 15 miles from the Pacific Ocean, and then it meanders for more than 2,000 miles across the face of the North, seeking that same salt Pacific water. In the 19th century, the gold lay scattered for the full length of that great watercourse. It could be found at After the Lake, at the very head of the river, and again in the glittering sand of the beaches of Nome on Norton Sound, into which the river empties. But nowhere was it found as thickly as it was in the Klondike watershed, and nowhere in the Klondike as thickly as the valley of Bonanza Creek where it was first discovered, and nowhere in the Bonanza country as in El Dorado Creek, which is a small tributary of Bonanza. El Dorado was quite simply the richest creek in history. A single shovelful of pay dirt could yield $800 worth of nuggets. But to get that pay dirt, a man still needed a grub stake.
Didn't know you were that cheap, Stander. Oh, damn it, man. Everybody knows you staked a claim on El Dorado.
Look, Anton, I'm not trying to hustle drinks, don't have to these days. But why the poor act? Who are you trying to fool?
You look, Clarence Perry. Anton Stander is not trying to fool anyone. Yeah, I have a claim on El Dorado. Yeah, it might be worth plenty, but I can't even get a grub stake to start working it.
Good God, man, why not?
That Edgar Meisner over at the Alaska Commercial Company store says no.
You mean the Pope won't give you a grub stake? Won't advance your credit?
Yeah, I mean just that.
Oh, the man must be mad.
The Alaska Commercial Company holds almost a monopoly in these parts. And in 40 Mile, Edgar Meisner is the Alaska Commercial Company. He wants a guarantee before he advances me provisions. And I can't mine my property without it.
The man's a bloody dictator.
Anton, this has to be crazy, but let's put our heads together and work something out. Sam! Hey, Sam! Yeah! Take over the bar for me, will you? Come on, Anton.
El Dorado was staked by men who were in the Yukon Valley long before the Klondike Stampede began. Men like Anton Stander, who had arrived unable to speak a word of English and had walked over most of North America until he reached its remotest corner. Or Clarence Berry, a one-time fruit farmer from Fresno, California, a victim of the Depression of the 90s, who had come north to 40 Mile in 1894 and worked as a bartender in Bill McPhee's saloon.
I think I can talk Bill McPhee into grub staking.
Do you really think he would?
Sure of it, Anton. And he trusts me. Besides, I have property on Bonanza Creek, you know that. Haven't really worked it yet, but I staked it right after Carmack came in to announce his discovery strike.
I don't know what to say, Clarence.
Look, man, I won't try to fool you. I like you. But this is business, right?
Right.
Right. Now, you trade me half of your El Dorado claim for half of my Bonanza claim. I'll get McPhee to grubstake us both. That way, neither of us will have all our eggs in one basket. We'll both have half claims to a proven prospect and a half claim each on a good speculation. What do you say?
Sounds good, Clarence Berry. Sounds real good. You have a deal.
The gold that men found along the Yukon was placer gold or free gold. Gold that had long since been ground down to dust or nuggets and so could be mined by an individual if he had a strong enough back and plenty of persistence. It couldn't be dug out of the ground, as many in the outside world came to believe. It lay far below the permafrost, 15 or 30 feet below. Nor was it distributed evenly, but only in the slender and serpentine pay streak, the mark of an ancient stream bed that might have cut across a tiny corner of one claim. Now, to reach that gold, men had to burn their way down, building fires in the permafrost, day after day, a foot and a half at a time. And then, when that shaft was sunk, they had to burn their way again laterally this time, tunneling hither and thither until they found what they were seeking. Even then, they couldn't be sure what they had. On El Dorado, only the most persistent men kept up that grueling toil.
Oh, let's sit down by the fire. Have a rest and talk.
Now, what's in your mind, Anton?
Look, we've been working all fall, burning and digging this shaft through to the permafrost. Trying to get down to bedrock. Everyone thinks we're crazy. Well, maybe we are.
Yeah, Lewis Rhodes and Bill Scouse don't think we're crazy. Lewis is working his claim on Bonanza. Bill and his two brothers are digging into their El Dorado claim.
Yeah, but who else?
Well,
Let's face it, Clarence. The excitement has died down. Maybe the others are right. Maybe we'll find nothing when we reach bedrock.
maybe.
Well, then maybe we should quit breaking our backs. Everyone's laughing at us.
Not me. I have a chance to make it big, and by God, Anton, I'm not quitting till I see what's down there. And quit if you want, I'm staying.
I'm sorry, Clarence.
Sorry.
Yes, I was just tired and discouraged. No, I'll stay. You've been a good friend, and there's no reason for me to complain.
Well, don't think I don't understand, Anton. I've had it rough most of my life. I've been discouraged often. Besides, I've got Ethel to think about. I brought her here in a sleigh, over the mountains and down the river in winter. Yeah, not many men find a woman like that.
You know, you're a funny man to find here, Clarence Berry. You're different than most of the sourdoughs hereabouts. You don't get drunk, work hard, don't run around with women. Yeah, Ethel's a lucky woman.
Lucky? She deserves the best. What have I given her?
Yeah, let's get back at it.
Okay.
Hey, Stender! Berry, did you hear the news?
Well, who's that?
Oh, it's Art Walden. What news you talking about, Art?
Well, then you haven't heard.
No.
Lewis Rhodes. He's hit pay dirt. He hit it big. Hit the old creek channel on the first try. And it's rich. So rich, he's been able to hire workmen, pay them by scooping up a few padfuls of dirt. And the boss of it every night.
Yeah! Did you hear that, Anton? Now what do you say?
Well, let's start digging.
All right. Do you know Bill Scouse and his two brothers are still digging on their claim?
Yep, they're still there. When the news gets up, there'll be plenty of others digging in, too.
The ones that laughed at us.
And to think I was ready to quit. Clarence, you may make a rich man of me yet if I keep taking your advice.
Canadian mining law was explicit. Everybody was entitled to stake one claim and one claim only. Each claim extended across the valley from rim rock to rim rock. It was to be 500 feet long, no more, measured either upstream or downstream from the original discovery claim. In those first hectic days on El Dorado and Bonanza, the claims were hastily measured, and when the government surveyor came along, he found that often many of these claims were too long. Everything past the 500-foot mark was open. Anybody could stake that fraction if they hadn't used up their staking rights.
Oh, hello there, Mr. Ogilvy. I suppose you're here to do the resurvey on this claim?
That's right, Clarence.
Well, I certainly hope we haven't measured off too much. Would hate to lose a piece. Any one of those men coming over to watch you work would sure like to lay a claim to a chunk of this.
No doubt. Dick Lowe was able to stake a piece close to George Cormack's original discovery. Could have made him a fortune. Well, I better get to work.
All righty.
In the Yukon mining camps, potential millionaires lived like European peasants in murky, airless cabins whose window panes are made from untanned deer hide, white cotton canvas, or even a row of empty pickle jars chinked with moss. Cutlery was fashioned from pieces of tin, furniture constructed from stumps of trees. 4 men often lived year after year in a space about 18 feet square. Above the red-hot sheet iron stove, there was always hung a full tin of fermented dough, used in place of yeast to make bread, biscuits, and flapjacks rise. From this staple originated the name sourdough, which was applied to the pioneers of the Yukon to distinguish them from the tenderfeet, or chichacos, as the Indians called them.
How was the survey, Mr. Ogilvy?
Let's go to supper. I'm cold and hungry enough to eat nuggets.
Oh, sure. We can go over to the cabin. And we'll have everything ready anyway.
Good.
Is there anything wrong, Mr. Ogilvy?
Keep your voice down until we're out of earshot.
All right. What's wrong?
Keep walking.
All right, but I don't understand.
When I surveyed your claim number 5, I found that you had made an error.
What?
There was a fraction, 41 feet 6 inches to be exact, that doesn't belong to you.
What?
What's worse, nearly all your winter work is on it.
Oh, no, you must be mistaken.
I wish I were, Clarence.
Dear God.
As soon as I make the announcement, I must make it official in the morning. Anyone who hasn't used up his staking rights can claim it. First come, first served.
What the hell am I going to do?
I'm sorry, Clarence. You understand that officially I cannot advise you.
No, of course I understand, but... Well, look, why can't I just go claim it right now?
That would be the answer, certainly. Unfortunately, you've used up all your staking rights.
I have?
And so has your partner, Anton Stander.
Oh, no. All that bloody work for nothing?
It does seem a shame. Too bad you haven't got a friend you can trust.
What do you mean?
Oh, I was just thinking. Unofficially, of course. If someone were to stake that fraction tonight, he could transfer it back to you and Anton tomorrow.
I see.
You understand that I am not advising.
No, of course not. But I just got an idea.
Well, you two didn't waste any time.
Clarence told me his trouble, Mr. Ogilvy. I guess there isn't much time to waste.
Trouble? What's this all about, Clarence? Mr. Ogilvy wouldn't tell me a thing.
Later, Ethel. Now let's get down to business.
Gentlemen, you understand clearly that I am the government surveyor. I cannot be a party to anything that goes on here.
We know that. We understand perfectly, Mr. Ogilvy.
Well, I wish I did.
I can, however, in my official capacity, advise anyone on the proper method of staking a claim.
Well, I'll certainly have to know that. Would you show me, Mr. Ogilvy?
Very well. May I have a piece of paper?
Oh, use the tablecloth.
Clarence, that's my own.
Please, Ethel. I'll buy you a dozen of them. Go ahead, Mr. Ogilvy.
You sure it's all right?
Oh, yes. Oh, Ethel, let's have some more coffee. I'll help you, dear.
Now then, George, if you're setting out to stake a claim, You must first of all measure off the exact dimensions of that claim. Like so, and so, and so.
I see.
Be very sure of your dimensions. You don't want any arguments later.
Uh-huh.
Now, supposing this is the drawing of the piece that is to be claimed, it is very important that stakes bearing your name as claimant be driven in at every angle where I've made the X. Here, 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 and here.
Well, that seems straightforward enough.
Good. If Mrs. Barry has no objections, I suggest you keep this tablecloth for reference.
All right, I will.
Now, I must run. Thank you, Mrs. Barry, for a wonderful supper.
Oh, you're leaving. Coffee's almost ready.
No, thank you. Morning comes early. Thanks for the hospitality, Clarence.
Oh, not at all. Thank you.
Good luck, George.
Right. Thanks.
Oh, and by the way, I finished work tonight at 6 o'clock. That means I won't be able to announce any errors in the original survey until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Officially, that is. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mr. Ogilvy.
All right. Now, will somebody please explain to me what is going on?
I will, dear, I will, in a day or two.
But just what in heaven's name was Mr. Ogilvy drawing all over my tablecloth anyway?
He was just showing George the proper way to stake. Hey, George, do you realize what he's drawn here? What? That's the exact dimension of the fraction of my Eldorado 5 claim. It is? Yep. Well, come on. What are we waiting for?
Clarence! Oh, my God.
In here, George. Well, there you are, Clarence. All registered, and here's the transfer. We can get Bill McPhee to witness it.
Oh, thanks, George. Now, I have something for you to sign. I'm transferring a piece of one of my claims to you.
Ah, now, wait a minute, Clarence. Sure, I didn't ask for that.
I know you didn't. You didn't ask for anything. Sign it.
Well, all right, Clarence.
Thanks.
Dawson City was born in that winter of 1896-97, and some of the original cabins were still there when I grew up as a boy. There was so much gold packed about by miners that a lot of it filtered out of the rawhide folks, and I can remember in 1937, at the height of the Depression, seeing unemployed men lifting up the sidewalks and panning the dirt underneath, and they made good money that way. There wasn't a commercial building in town, I don't suppose, that didn't have, $1,500 or more in gold. Gold that had been cast aside decades before. It was an odd thing in Dawson in the early days, you know. Accepted standards of wealth vanished. There was a shortage of almost everything from nails to women. But there was no shortage of gold. So that became, to many people, the cheapest commodity in the world. Almost everybody in town was rich, and yet all were living like sharecroppers because they had nothing to buy. I suppose the story of the Klondike provides the classic example of the law of supply and demand. Salt was so scarce, it fetched its weight in gold.
I wish I could understand. You say we're wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
I'll admit we certainly have enough gold. It's stored everywhere, in jars and cans and pots. Look at the way we live. It was never like this, poor as we sometimes were when I was a girl in California.
I know it isn't easy, Ethel, but when spring comes...
Everyone says that, but are we sure?
Dead certain, dear.
Well, I hope so. We haven't had a floor in this shack and no windows. Look at the furniture. 2 homemade chairs and a homemade bed. The same old sheet iron stove you packed over the trail when you first came here. 1 kerosene lamp. The only other things are the panning tank, the scales... and the jars and jars of gold. I haven't even got my 1 tablecloth anymore.
Well, Ethel, we haven't been living better for any of the years we've spent in the north. And those jars of gold will buy you a new life come spring.
Clarence?
Hmm?
How much do you think we're worth?
Offhand, I'd say around $1 million.
At this point, 10 months had gone by, and nobody in the outside world yet had an inkling of the Klondike strike. That's how isolated Dawson City was from civilization. It was a 5,000-mile trip by steamboat and ocean packet to civilization. By June, the whole camp was impatiently awaiting the arrival of the first sternwheeler. The Klondike's nouveau riche were ready to return to a civilization that some had rejected 10 years before. There were more than 80, each possessed of a fortune that ran from $25,000 to $500,000. Some were determined to leave the North forever, and they'd already sold their claims, content to live modestly but securely for the rest of their lives. Others were intent on a brief but gaudy celebration in the big cities of the Pacific coast before returning to the Klondike for more treasure. All of them felt the desperate need to escape from the dark confines of their cabins and tents and from the smoky depths of their mine shafts, just as they had once felt a similar need to escape the smoky, populous cities. So when the Alaska Commercial Company's tiny stern-wheeler Alice and John J. Healy's boat, the Portus B. Weir, left Dawson City for the trip downstream to join the ocean packets at Norton Sound, they carried with them men who would bring the first news of the great strike out to the unsuspecting world.
Oh, dear, I've been so embarrassed. Look at me, dressed like this, like a sidewash. I could have died when I was introduced to Mrs. Gage on board ship last night. She's the daughter-in-law of the treasurer. Oh, dressed like a queen.
Never mind, darling. You could buy her lock, stock, and barrel. As soon as we get down this gangplank, we'll head for the first Seattle ladies' wear store we can find. As soon as I get this gold stored anyway.
Hey, look, there's a miner and his wife trying to lug a suitcase. Oh, and it's filled with gold.
When they're pounds, no way they're struggling.
There's another holding a buckskin sack.
That's what they got off earlier.
Hey, wait,
so much gold.
I got the press. I'm reporting to the Post Intelligence. And if I get through with any sort of change, you really got something to report.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, yes.
Did you get off the SS Portland?
That I did.
Are you a miner from the Klondike?
That I am.
I knew he was. Look at the way he's dressed.
My name's Brown, sir. Beriah Brown.
How do you do?
I'm a reporter with the Post Intelligence. Now, could I have a story, sir?
What kind of a story?
About the gold strike in the Klondike. Now, your name, sir. Would you mind giving me your name, please?
Barry, Clarence Barry. This is my wife, Ethel.
Now, how do you do, madam? Did you enjoy your trip?
Oh, it was wonderful, thank you. I saw...
Mr. Barry, what do you personally think of the prospects of the Klondike country?
The Klondike? The Klondike is the richest gold field in the world.
Can I quote you on that, sir?
If you want. Now, if you don't mind, my wife and I would like to go and get accommodations. There's lots more miners coming down. You can interview them.
Just one more thing, sir.
Yes?
How much gold would you say came down on the Portland?
$2 million?
Millions?
In dollars?
Yes, and not in Confederate ones.
And how much did you personally bring with you, sir?
Plenty. Come on, Ethel. Let's spend some of this gold.
The Klondike Stampede did not start slowly and build up to a climax as did so many earlier gold rushes. It started instantly with the arrival of the first miners bringing gold to San Francisco and Seattle. The treasure ships from Alaska reached the Pacific coast at the peak of that era that we know nostalgically as the gay 90s. The gaiety is remembered. The misery that accompanied it is largely forgotten. That, of course, was the era of Buffalo Bill, P.T. Barnum, Little Egypt, Lillian Russell, and the Floridora Sextet. The Gibson Girls stared haughtily from the pages of the 10-cent magazines. The world was riding bicycles built for two and singing Daisy Bell. It was an era still remembered as the good old days. In short, it was an age occupied with money or preoccupied with the lack of it. And gold was the magic word. The world was on a gold standard, and gold represented money. In fact, as the supply of gold dropped, one gold dollar was worth as much as two paper ones. No wonder North America went insane when two ships loaded with gold steamed in from out of the Arctic mists.
Is the story that nice reporter wrote in the paper tonight, dear?
Yeah, right here on the front page with the headlines right across the top of the paper.
What's it say?
Let's see here. Gold, 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 gold. 4 times. 68 rich men on the steamer Portland. Stacks of yellow metal. Yeah, that's the headline. Then it goes on to say, at 8 o'clock this morning, the steamer Portland from St. Michael for Seattle docked with more than a solid ton of gold aboard.
Was there really a ton of gold on the ship?
I wouldn't know, dear. But it sounds good, doesn't it? A ton of gold. It's sure.
And the stampede was on. Thousands quit their jobs and joined thousands who had no jobs to quit and headed down the Trail of 98 to seek their fortunes along the Klondike. Almost none of the newcomers found any gold. Of those who struck it rich, all, or almost all, were pioneer sourdoughs who were on the Yukon River when George Carmack made his strike in Bonanza Creek. Men like Anton Stander and Clarence Berry. Stander lived for a brief time the opulent life of a Klondike king. He wooed and fell in love with a dance hall girl. He bought her every diamond in the area, gave her a diamond necklace that reached almost to her knees. He gave her $20,000 in gold dust. He gave her a lard pail full of nuggets. He gave her $1,000 a month to keep her happy. In the end, he married her. He drank most of his fortune away. His wife deserted him and took the rest. He died in a pioneer's home in Sitka, Alaska, penniless. His wife left an estate worth $50,000. The story of Clarence Berry is a happier one. He took $1.5 million from his claims in El Dorado and Bonanza, and then he moved on to Alaska, and there he struck it rich a second time. He returned to California, secured some oil properties, and made another fortune. When he died in 1930, he was worth several $1 million. His story is unique in the annals of the stampede. Yet there are other forms of success than those measured in dollars. You know, to set out and conquer the trail to the Klondike was a monumental accomplishment. To haul a ton of goods up the Daae Trail and over the Chilkoot Pass in the dead of winter. To construct a serviceable boat of green lumber whipsawed by hand on the shores of Lake Bennett. To tempt that swift river and its rapids for more than 500 miles, and then on arrival at the Klondike's mouth to build your own log cabin capable of withstanding temperatures of 60 below. That's a test of character and stamina that very few people would undertake today. Elizabeth Barrett Browning has said it better than I can. All actual heroes, she wrote, are essential men, and all men possible heroes. And so, in a very real sense, every man who reached the Klondike, whether his name was Barry or Stander or Francis George Burton, was a special kind of hero.
Klondike, Part 2, with Pierre Burton. Prepared for radio by Bill Fraser. Original music composed and conducted by Tommy Banks. Claude Ray was heard as Clarence Berry, with Dana Ivey as his wife Ethel. Paul Kligman as Stander, Sean Mulcahy as George Byrne, with Andrew Allen as Ogilvy. This program was made available to this station through the facilities of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation presents the third of a 5-part series based on Pierre Burton's book, Klondike. Prepared for radio by Bill Fraser. Produced and directed by Fred D.L. With original music composed and conducted by Tommy Banks. And starring the author himself as our host and guide, writer, broadcaster, Pierre Burton.
The legal and social customs of American and Canadian frontier mining camps have pointed up the very real differences between the two national temperaments. The American liked to run his affairs from the ground up. The Canadian often preferred law and order imposed from above. These twin concepts, one stressing order and often caution, the other freedom and sometimes license, met head-on during the greatest of all international stampedes.
Klondike, by Pierre Burton. Part 3, The Incredible Soapy Smith.
Well, as I live and breathe. If it isn't Jefferson Randolph Smith, America's leading bunco artist. How you doing, Soapy?
Well, Mr. Loomis. Ex-Sheriff Loomis, And how are you, Willis?
Not bad at all. Yes, you heard correctly. My career as a lawman has passed. Temporarily, at least. A small matter of a prisoner that walked out of a jail. Citizens formed a committee. Their accusations hurt me deeply. I left town somewhat hastily. Caught up to the former prisoner, and we came to Seattle together.
Well, you always were one of my favorite lawmen, Willis. Probably because I've always found you a reasonable sort.
Well, it's nice of you to say that, Soapy. Say, what do you think of the stampede of the Klondike for gold?
Wonderful. Simply wonderful. Personally, I've always had a great fondness for the yellow metal.
Don't tell me you're thinking of going north to that godforsaken country.
Yeah, on the next boat.
Good Lord, man. What do you intend to do when you get there?
My friend, Skagway, Alaska is the gateway to the Klondike goldfields. I am going to be boss of Skagway. I know exactly how to do it. And if you come along, I'll make you chief of police.
Sorry, Soapy. A team of mules couldn't drag me to Alaska, but thanks for the offer. Hey, what was it you said you're going to be?
The boss of Skagway.
The differences between the frontier mining camps of Canada and the United States can be seen in the differences between the town marshal or county sheriff, elected on the spot by a vote of the local populace, and the mounted policeman appointed from a distance by a federal authority. In the British Columbia gold rushes, the ones that preceded the Klondike, constabulary and courts of justice enforced a single set of laws in the British colonial tradition. In the Rocky Mountain camps of the United States, each community had its own customs and rules made on the spot. The American prospector, with his long tradition of free frontier life, smarted under any restriction imposed from above. He packed a gun, and he often found himself a member of a vigilante movement. The Canadian was not allowed to carry a gun, but then he had the mounted police to protect him. Now, the Klondike Stampede was essentially a mass movement of Americans pouring across the international border into Canadian territory. On one side of that border, in places like Skagway, Alaska, for instance, freedom and also anarchy. On the other side, security and also a form of military dictatorship.
Oh, dirty night.
Yeah. How long have you been stationed in the Yukon, Alec?
4 months. It's your first posting.
Yeah.
White Pass is a hell of a place to start your service.
Why is that?
Well, as you can see, the comforts aren't exactly like home. But the real trouble is from just across the border there. Gang that runs Skagway. Always giving us trouble.
Evening, Sergeant.
Sir. Superintendent Steele, this is Constable Jones, his first posting.
Jones?
Sir?
You've been filling him in, Sergeant, I trust?
Yes, sir. I was just telling him what a bad lot they are down in Skagway.
Yes, the whole place is rotten, Jones. Typical example of American lawlessness carried on in the name of democracy. There's Northwest Mounted Police, It's our job to see that that rottenness doesn't spread across the border into British territory.
Yes, sir. Who's to blame for this mess up in Skagway, sir?
The corrupt American system, Jones. And a character they call Soapy Smith.
On Alaska Territory, during the hectic days of 1897 and 1898, there was no organized machinery of government to speak of. Rule was by local committee, sometimes wise, sometimes capricious, always summary. On the Canadian side, there was, if anything, too much government, as the graft in Dawson City was to demonstrate. But there was also, at every bend of the river, the uniformed and strangely comforting figures of the Northwest Mounted Police. They were gallant young men with their aquiline profiles and soft accents that hinted at their backgrounds. The majority of them were English, younger sons of well-to-do families seeking adventure and service in the outposts of empire. They seldom raised their voices, almost never drew their guns, and rarely had to give an order twice. Dawson City, a Canadian town, didn't have either a murder or a single case of major theft in 1898. On the other hand, Skagway on the U.S. Panhandle was a haven for thieves, killers, crooked lawmen, and above all, confidence men.
Howdy, partner. Well, I just got in a week ago. I'm heading for the Klondike. I guess we're what they call Chechacos. Means greenhorn.
Guess that's what I am, all right. It's all sort of strange. Sure don't know my way around Skagway yet.
Well, I've only been here a short time myself. But I'll be glad to show you around, give you all the help I can.
Well, that's very good of you. I appreciate that.
The name's Joe.
Oh, glad to know you. Mine's Tom.
Anything I can do for you, Tom, just holler.
Thanks. I was wondering how a fella could go about getting his gear over the pass.
Same problem myself. They tell me there's an information bureau down the street. Place where we can get maps, information, weather forecasts, things like that. Well, why don't we go and see what we can find out?
Well, sounds like a good idea. Let's go. I guess maybe this is a lucky day for me. Meeting a friend, first day in town.
Goes both ways, Tom. This just might be my lucky day, too. Here we are. This must be it. Says Information Bureau on the door, anyway. Excuse me. Are you the boss around here?
I'm the manager, yes. What can I do for you, gentlemen?
Well, my friend and I are going over the pass soon. Heading for the Klondike. We'd like to get all the information we need to help us.
Why, of course. That's our business. If you'll both just fill out these forms.
Forms?
Yes. You see, before we can provide you with exact information, you understand, to save you the most in time and money, we require you to fill out these simple forms.
I see. Well, I guess that's okay. Tom?
I guess so. Sure.
Well, just read them over carefully, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. And here we have a map for each of you. No charge. And a weather forecast chart, free.
Thanks. I see here you want to know the size of my outfit.
That's right.
Well, I can understand that, but... Well, the next line here. Why do you want to know the amount of ready cash I have on hand?
Oh, well, you see, we must know about that so that we might help you plan your spending wisely. We advise on prices in Dawson, as well as here in Skagway, border restrictions, everything you'll need.
Oh, I see. What do you think, Joe?
Oh, I guess it's all right.
You understand, gentlemen, it'll take about a week to process your files. We're terribly busy and getting behind. I'm sorry, but it's the best we can do.
Well, that'll be all right with me. Joe?
Yeah, I guess so. A week ain't too long to wait.
Good. Just complete those forms, and I'll get right at it.
Back already, Joe?
Yep.
Get rid of the sucker?
For now.
Nice work. We got all the information on him we need. He's pretty well healed. You and the boys should be able to help him lose it at one of our joints.
Yeah, shouldn't be hard.
Soapy will be proud of you.
The American Miners' Meeting had the power of life and death over the members of the community. It could hang a man, give him a divorce, imprison, banish, or lash him. Any prospector could call a meeting simply by posting a notice. An elected chairman performed the function of judge, while the entire meeting acted as jury. This was grassroots democracy, unrestricted by any authority from above. Sometimes it amounted to little more than vigilante justice. It could also provide a climate which encouraged a demagogue like Soapy Smith. In Skagway, Smith used methods that were remarkably similar to those adopted by later European dictators to control the community. He organized his own committee from among his followers. He raised his own army, operated his own spy system and secret police, and he managed to keep the press, the clergy, the business community, and the lawmakers always under his thumb.
You sent for me, sir? Inspector Wood. Yes, I did. Come in and close the door, will you? Wood, we have a problem in our hands. Just one? No, this one is king size. We have now collected the grand sum of $150,000 in customs duties from the miners that have come through here. That much? I'm afraid so. Now, of course, we have to get it to the bank in Victoria. Victoria? Mm-hmm. That means we have to take it through Skagway. That, Inspector Wood, is our problem. Could be a bit tricky. Indeed, it could. What the? Right outside the window here. I'd better look into this. Sergeant, go see what that was all about.
Yes, sir.
And report back to me.
Right away, sir.
I can't see anything out the window. Oh, what a country this is. Now then, Wood, as you were saying, getting this money through Skagway could be tricky. Very. Particularly if Soapy Smith and his crowd get wind of it. Yes, well, I'm glad you realize that, Wood. Because you are the one who is going to take this bundle to Victoria. Me? Yes, you. Inspector Zachary Taylor Wood of the Northwest Mounted Police. Grandson of a former United States president. You. Anyway,
Excuse me, sir.
What is it, Sergeant?
An American, sir. Says he was cleaning his gun when he went off accidentally. I think it's one of Soapy Smith's men, sir.
I was afraid of that. Arrest him, lock him up, and go through his things.
Yes, sir.
Oh, someday. Soapy Smith. Any ideas? This is what I think we should do. I'll spread the story that you are being transferred back to the prairies, and that you're taking only baggage and boatmen. We'll stuff the gold and banknotes into kit bags, and you and your men will go over the Chilkoot Pass. Chilkoot? Hmm? Well, why not White Pass? It's closer. Yeah, I know it is. But I don't think we should risk going that way. It means you would have to go directly through Skagway, and I don't trust that Soapy Smith as far as I can throw him. No, I think it best that you go through Dai, then by boat across the bay to the steamer that will be anchored in Skagway Harbor. It's called the Tartar. I'll get word to the captain that you're coming. Oh, I see. Any questions? No, I don't think so. You seem to have it worked out very well. Yeah. Well, Sergeant, what did you find out?
He had a complete thimble rig outfit and some Monte cards on him, sir. And one of our constables recognized him as one of Soapy Smith's men.
I see. And where is he now?
Right outside the door, sir. I thought you might want to talk to him.
Oh, good. Bring him in here.
Yes, sir. Constable Jones, bring the prisoner in.
Now, see here, sir. I must protest. I am an American citizen, and I'll have you know that you can't lock up a citizen of the United States of America and get away with it. My God, sir, the Secretary of State himself will hear about this.
I see. What's your name?
My name? Sir, my name is Trevor Gardner, and I am a bona fide citizen of the United States.
Yes, of course you are. And since you are an American citizen, I shall have to be lenient with you.
Well, now, that's more like it, sir.
I'll just confiscate everything you have on your possession and give you 1/2 hour to be on your way back to Alaska.
But see here, sir. It's 22 miles to American soil. And it's all uphill.
Then you'd better get started.
Soapy Smith was not one to miss any opportunity, and so it was not surprising, when the Spanish-American War broke out, that he should appoint himself captain of Company A, 1st Regiment, National Guard of Alaska, and begin recruiting soldiers for service in the Philippines. Soapy was now at the point in his life when he wanted more than mere money. He wanted homage as well. Besides this, it gave him an excuse to arm and drill a disciplined force under his command. The wave of patriotism which followed the sinking of the Maine decided many of the stampeders to forsake the gold fields for the service of their country, and so they wound up in a Skagway tent bearing the sign, United States Army Recruiting Office. Inside, they were enrolled for service, congratulated on their patriotism, and then hustled into the back for a medical examination. And while a fake doctor looked them over, their discarded clothing was rifled for valuables. If they protested, they were thrown out in the street in their underwear. Soapy even went so far as to organize the greatest demonstration Skagway had ever seen. He marched at the head of his military procession that stretched for 2 blocks while a cheering crowd paid, many of them wearing badges which read, Freedom for Cuba, Remember the Maine, compliments of the Skagway Military Company, Jeff Smith, Captain. And on the rostrum, an effigy of the Spanish General of Cuba swung in the breeze.
There is one man who, in this terrible strife, has transcended the bounds of fair war. He has murdered the helpless and the weak, debauched women, butchered and starved little children. Mr. Chairman, we have this man with us today. I have him here, and we will now proceed to hang and butcher him.
Few at that moment doubted that Soapy Smith was the benefactor of Skagway, its guiding light, the symbol of its honor and its pride, and the emblem of its future prosperity.
No. That should do it.
What you got there, Soapy?
That, my friend, is a letter from the Secretary of War himself, thanking me for my patriotism.
Well, I don't blame you for framing it.
I am going to hang it up right over the bar there for all to see. That should show the good people of this community that I am much more than a tin horn gambler.
Oh, I don't think anyone takes you for a tin horn, Soapy. But a few are beginning to think that you run this town for yourself and not for the people.
Yes. Well, I have a few ideas that might change their minds. I must get more and better press.
Yeah, but how?
Bowers, there is nothing to grab the heartstrings of people like widows and dogs. Show the people that you care about widows and dogs, and they get all choked up. That will show everyone that I, Soapy Smith, have a civic conscience and have the best interests of this town at heart. Oh, Gardner, you're back. What did you find out?
That it's a hell of a long walk up that pass. I got caught. But I talked my way out.
So they made you walk home. Well, what did you find out?
You were right. They're fixing to ship that customs money to Victoria right away.
Right away? Well, now, the only ship coming in here in the next few days is the Tartar. They must be going to make that.
Do you want us to set up an ambush at White Pass?
And what makes you think that they'll come that way?
Always do. Everybody does.
Yes, but those Mounties are smart. They might just try to fool us. Take the Chilkoot Pass.
Is that right, Trap?
I don't know. My damn gun went off accidentally. I got caught before I could find out.
Well, gentlemen, it doesn't matter. We'll be ready for them either way.
boat coming. Look sharp. It might be just fishermen, but there's no sense taking chances.
Doesn't look like fishermen to me. Five will get you 10 at some Soapy's boys.
Yes, I'm afraid you're right. And they are coming fast. Too fast.
Looks like they're going to try ramming us.
Ahoy there! We're all armed. Stop that damn boat of yours or we'll open fire. Do you hear me? You have 5 seconds, then we start shooting.
By God, they're turning.
Yeah. They're staying with us.
Let's dock over there, Inspector. Tarver alongside.
Hell of a crowd on the wharf. Must be Sophie's men.
Yeah, but look at all the sailors on the gangway. They're all armed.
Steele must have got word through to the captain. Thank God. They were ready for Smith.
You can bet that his bunch are armed. Could be a standoff.
Yes. Well, there's nothing we can do but keep heading in.
Ahoy there! Keep your bloody distance or we'll shoot.
Those rifles are a very good sight.
Wait till Smith might try something. Steele got work through.
Now what? We'll soon know. Here comes Smith.
And look at him. He's that cunning, cool one if I ever saw one. Something over here as though nothing was wrong. Smiling like the devil himself. That's far enough, Smith.
Well, now, Captain. That's a fine-looking group of men you have there. Oh, and you're Inspector Wood, I believe.
That's right.
I'm glad to see you made it.
What do you want, Smith?
Oh, I was just wondering why you and your men don't hang around and visit Skagway for a while.
Your hospitality overwhelms me, Smith. But no thanks.
Oh, well, that's too bad.
And, I wouldn't insist if I were you. One of my men has a gun aimed right at your head.
Oh, I have no intentions of insisting, Inspector. Bon voyage. Have a good trip. Sorry you're not staying around for a while. Let's go, boys.
Well, I'll keep. Never thought Sophie would back off from the fight. Well, something changed his mind. Come on, let's get our stuff aboard. All right.
I don't understand it, Soapy. Why didn't you shoot it out with him?
I changed my mind. That's all.
Over $100,000 at stake.
Peanuts. Just peanuts, Bowers. And don't for a moment get the idea that I was afraid out there. I am not afraid of anyone or anything.
I know that, Soapy, and that's
Never mind. Besides, I have a little project I want you to start working on, Bowers.
Another one?
I want to start a fund for widows. Those poor, unfortunate women who have lost their husbands in the goldfields. And also for penniless chachacos.
You gotta be joking, Soapy. Hell, it was our own men that made most of them widows. And one way or another, they fleeced all the chachacos. Anything you spend to help them will be their own cash.
Setting up a soup kitchen won't cost much. You know, Bowers, the trouble with you have no talent for operation. You have to keep the suckers happy. I have a great fondness for the sucker.
Well, you should have. He's kept you well all these years.
Yes, he has. He has given me a good income, allowed me to live in a style I like. Yes, I must confess, I really like him. And that, of course, is no doubt the secret of my success. I really do like him. He knows it, and he trusts me.
And you take him?
Yes. But he must like me doing it. He keeps coming back for more.
The same easygoing grassroots kind of democracy that tolerated Soapy Smith in Skagway provided in the end the means to bring about his downfall. He met his death at the hands of a vigilante committee in a typical frontier American shooting match. It happened at the very height of the stampede on July 8th, 1898, just 4 days after the 4th of July parade in Skagway, a parade which Smith himself had organized and led, riding on a white horse and accepting the cheers of the crowd, to whom he had distributed free whiskey and candy and peanuts. You see, the Americans didn't like to be pushed around by people at the top. That's why, when they crossed the border, they were often irritated by the mounted police who insisted on trying to save their lives by forcing them to bring enough food into the Yukon and making sure their boats were watertight and preventing them from shooting the rapids so recklessly. But the moment came in Skagway when Soapy Smith pushed too many people around. Specifically, his men robbed a Klondike miner blind. The merchants needed that Klondike business. They knew that the successful miners would do their best to bypass Skagway if this sort of thing kept up. And so, once again, the inevitable committee was elected and they met in the Juneau dock. Smith tried to break up the meeting.
Out of my way, Reed.
You're not breaking up this meeting, Smith. You're not running Skagway anymore. You're all through.
Damn you, Reed. You're at the bottom of all my troubles. You've always opposed me, always tried to turn the town against me. I should have got rid of you months ago. By God, I will now.
You're not fast enough, Smith. And don't point that rifle at me.
Oh, don't shoot. For God's sake, don't.
Smith was killed, his gang rounded up, law and order reigned in Skagway. In death, he was much more valuable to Skagway than he was in life. Anybody who passes through Skagway to this very day will swiftly realize that Soapy Smith has become the town's main industry. His grave, his original saloon, even a painting of his skull on the cliffs overlooking the sea, all these have become tourist attractions. In my day, in the 30s, there was a Mrs. Pullen who used to give lectures to tourists about the death of Soapy Smith, which she had personally witnessed. I never heard that lecture because, as a native Yukoner, I wasn't allowed in. Like most sourdoughs, Mrs. Pullen wasn't above improving on a good story, but she didn't want to be caught at it.
Klondike, Part 3, with Pierre Burton. Prepared for radio by Bill Fraser. Original music composed and conducted by Tommy Banks. Douglas Risk was heard as Soapy Smith and Jack Goff as Superintendent Steele. This program was made available to this station through the facilities of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation presents the fourth of a 5-part series based on Pierre Burton's book, Klondike. Prepared for radio by Bill Fraser. Produced and directed by Fred D.L. With original music composed and conducted by Tommy Banks. And starring the author himself as our host and guide. Writer, broadcaster, Pierre Burton.
Every society has its own status symbols. In Dawson City, in 1898, these symbols were unique. A box in a dance hall balcony. Champagne at $30 a pint. A set of matched husky dogs with silver harness. Or, in the case of Swiftwater Bill Gates, the only starched collar in town. While it was being laundered, Swiftwater took to his bed.
Klondike by Pierre Burton. Part 4, The Saga of Swiftwater Bill.
Hey, how's about a little drink, Sam?
What'll it be, Lottie?
Oh, give me the usual.
Coming right up.
Has Nigger Jim been in today?
Not yet.
Wonder where he's at.
The sky's the limit. Raise her up as far as you want to go, boys. And if the roof's in your way, tear it off.
Ah, God. Isn't that Bill Gates betting at the far table?
Swiftwater Bill Gates. That's him.
I know him. He used to be a dishwasher in Circle City.
Well, he sure ain't no dishwasher now.
I can see that. Good Lord, look at the way he's dressed. Prince Albert coat, a top hat, diamond stick pin, starched collar.
The only starched collar in Dawson City.
Times change fast in this country these days.
Swiftwater's a big mining operator now. Part owner of the Monte Carlo Dance Hall and Saloon. He makes lots of money. And he spends lots, too. Why, I saw him and John Healy lose $5,000 between them on a stud poker game. They were only kibitzers.
Any man who owned a dance hall in Dawson in 1897 or in 1898 could be sure of status. He could also be fairly certain of profit. Far to the south, on the beaches of Skagway and Dyea, boat after boat was unloading its human cargo. And already a black line of men, most of them bent double under the weight of their packs, were struggling and groaning their way over the White Pass and the Chilkoot Pass. Dawson awaited them, if not with open arms, at least with outstretched palms.
Yep, it's sure hard to believe that's the same Bill Gates I used to know in Circle City. Hell, he was only a dishwasher.
Well, like I said, he sure ain't no dishwasher now. He hires others to mine his property. Lives it up here in town. Funny, you know, he doesn't drink either, but that's about all he doesn't do. Gambles. You can see. And sure as hell likes the ladies. Right now he's running with Gussie Lamore.
Gussie Lamore? She was in Circle City, too. She sure wouldn't look at Gates then.
Well, she looks at him now. Ever since he bought all those eggs.
What?
Oh, Gussie was going with a gambler. I guess Swiftwater was jealous. Anyway, he knew Gussie liked eggs. So he bought up every egg in town, which wasn't many at that time because they were as scarce as hen's teeth in Dawson. Anyway, he gave them to Gussie, and I guess she thought it was something else because she's been his woman ever since.
Eggs, of course, were a status symbol in Dawson. They sold for $2 apiece. Onions were so expensive they could only be bought in a drugstore. Gold of itself was not a status symbol. Big Alec MacDonald, the king of the Klondike, used to give it away. Take it, he'd say, it's trash. It was what you did with the gold that gave you status. One man bought a dance hall girl for her weight in gold, and he got status that way. The kings of El Dorado Creek vied with each other to see who could give Cad Wilson, the dance hall queen, the finest nugget. She had them made into a fancy belt worth $50,000. The private box in a Dawson dance hall became a sort of symbol. Suspended above the turbulent and sweaty masses on the floor below, the miner, flush with gold, could feel that he had indeed risen in the world. In one single night, in the famous Monte Carlo saloon, one such merrymaker had $1,700 worth of champagne brought to his box. Only by owning a dance hall or actually bathing in champagne could you achieve greater social éclat.
Swiftwater.
Yeah?
The new building for the Monte Carlo Dance Hall and Saloon will be started soon. We're going to need new furnishings, liquor and dance hall girls.
True. And we'll want the best of everything, as is befitting an establishment owned and operated by Swiftwater Bill Gates and Jack Smith.
Well, the only place we can get the best is in Frisco, and I don't like the idea of trusting somebody else to act as our agents.
Agents?
Perish the thought. It should be one of us.
Well, I haven't a chance in hell of getting away, you know that. I have to operate the old place and supervise the construction of the new building.
Oh, think no more of it. After all, I have my mining properties bringing in revenue for me without any need of my presence. And I'm your partner. It's only fair that I take some of the burden from your shoulders. Of course, I'll miss Gussie, but... well, that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make for our business.
Well, I heard rumors that Gussie was going to Frisco herself.
Is that so? Well, it's all settled then.
Yes, I guess so. We'll need mirrors. I've been thinking of 10-foot ones. Velvet carpet, oil paintings of girls. Well, you know the type.
Oh, yeah. Leave it to me.
And real fancy gilt frames on the pictures.
Yes.
Then we'll need fixtures, a year's supply of liquor, and a lineup of new girls, some that will really make the boys here sit up and take notice.
Well, I've always been known to have an eye for the finer things.
Yeah, so I've noticed. I'll give you a list of the fixtures we'll need.
Go.
And, Bill, I figured it will all cost somewhere around $20,000. I'll put up half and you half.
Yeah, well, we're partners, aren't we? Any partner of Swiftwater Bill Gates can expect him to share 50-50.
And, Bill, I'm dependent on you.
What? You aren't suggesting you don't trust me to carry it out, are you?
Oh, no, not at all, Bill.
Well, good. Then I'll start making plans to go.
While Swiftwater Bill was in San Francisco on his shopping spree, a human flood was pouring into Dawson by scow, barge, raft, steamboat, and anything else that would float. By the end of August 1898, 56 steamboats had dumped 7,400 tons of freight onto the new docks, everything from porcelain chamber pots to Napoleon brandy. Dawson was now the largest town north of Seattle and west of Winnipeg, transformed from a log community to a glittering northern capital. The Regina Hotel was planning to install Brussels carpets and woodwork trimmed with gold leaf. Its rival, the Fairview, would have steam-heated rooms, electric lights, Turkish baths, and an orchestra to play at the dinner hour. And the Monte Carlo had ordered 10-foot mirrors, velvet carpets, oil paintings, and $10,000 worth of additional fixtures.
Good Lord, Jack. You don't mean you sent Swiftwater down to Frisco on business?
Yeah, why?
Do you think that was smart?
What do you mean?
Well, you know Swiftwater, or you should. He'd rather play and spend money than bother with business. And Gussie Lamore's down there. Went down just before him.
Yeah, I must admit, Gussie being down there bothers me a little.
A little? If it was my business... Oh, well, it isn't, is it?
No, it ain't.
Sorry, Jack. Well, I'd better get along. Be seeing you.
Yeah. Goodbye, Bert. God, now he's got me worried.
The character and shape of Dawson was changing from day to day. Thousands of tents blossomed out on the hills and benches that overlooked the town and along the trails that led to the gold creeks. Sawmills screeched incessantly. Planks, timbers, sawhorses encumbered the thoroughfares. Mountains of logs and piles of freshly sawn lumber sprang up everywhere. Tents, cabins, and men shifted about constantly. The real bonanza was not in the creek that bears that name. It was in the city of gold, where everything was at a premium. A live kitten sold for an ounce of gold dust. A pack of 6-month-old newspapers lugged across the mountains fetched $250. Almost anything that could be purchased in the outside world and brought into the gold camp would be worth a fortune.
Gussie!
Swiftwater Bill, you old coot. Sure is good to see you. San Francisco's been a lonely place for me, just waiting till you get here.
Well, I'm here, my sweet, my sugar and spice. And San Francisco, look out. Swiftwater Bill Gates and Gussie Lamore from Dawson City are going to show you how to live it up.
That's sure some fancy suits. Cost plenty, I'll bet.
Oh, what's money? Say, You still planning on marrying me like you promised, my little chickadee?
Oh, let's not talk about that right now, darling. Let's go out and spend some of that Klondike gold.
As you say, my dear. But we can get married and spend the gold.
Oh, Bill, you try to sweep me off my feet so fast. Don't rush me, dear.
The world that year was Klondike crazy. 1 million people, it was said, were determined to go to the Klondike, and 100,000 actually set out, using every crazy form of transportation devised by man, from bicycles to balloons. The movement was worldwide. A sloop load of Norwegians, a contingent of Maoris, a steam yacht loaded with titled Englishmen, all these headed for the north. Every train speeding across the continent had its special gold rush car, lined with jars of nuggets and photographs of the mining areas to attract business. Factories churned out desiccated foods 24 hours a day. And anyone emerging from the Klondike could expect a crowd of newspapermen and hangers-on trotting along at his heels.
Mr. Gates?
Just call me Swiftwater Bill, son.
Thank you, sir. People are also calling you the King of the Klondike.
A fitting title. By the way, son, just who in the hell are you?
Oh, Abernathy, sir. Horace Abernathy of the Chronicle.
Ah, member of the Fourth Estate. Well, pleased to have you join me. Would you care for a drink, Abernathy? I'll order a bottle of champagne.
No, thank you, sir. You, appear to like champagne, Mr. Gates.
Swiftwater Bill.
You appear to like champagne, Mr. Swiftwater. There's very good evidence that you ordered a good number of gallons for you and Miss Lamore one night. That's a lot of champagne to drink in an evening, isn't it?
Yes, I imagine it would be. However, I wouldn't know. I never drink champagne or anything else.
Would it be too much to ask what you do with it, then, sir?
Well, son, have you ever tried bathing in champagne? Gives you the most wonderfully refreshing sensation. Makes you tingle all over. You try it sometime.
On the salary paid a reporter for the San Francisco Chronicle.
Miss Lamore and I...
that's your wife, Gussie Lamore.
No. Gussie and I are not married.
But, I'd been given to understand, sir, you were married to Miss Lamore a little over 3 weeks ago.
I was.
Beg your pardon, sir?
Married to Grace Lamore. That's a sister of Gussie's.
But you did announce, sir, that you intended to marry Gussie.
Correct, son, correct. However, there was a small difficulty. Gussie already had a husband and child.
Oh, I see. Oh, well, then Miss Lamore, with whom you had the champagne bath, was your wife, Grace Lamore.
Heavens, no. Have no idea where Grace is. Had no idea where she was when Miss Lamore and I had that bath.
Miss Lamore, sir?
Nellie. She's Gussie and Grace's youngest sister.
Swiftwater.
Yes, son?
I think I would appreciate that drink, but not champagne. Bourbon. Straight.
In Dawson, the champagne flowed like bathwater. In the saloons, stock companies staged Camille and Uncle Tom's Cabin. And newfangled devices, the projectoscope and the animatograph, flashed pictures that actually moved on bedsheet screens, while an enormous magic lantern projected advertising messages on the side of a frame building, and newsboys hawked the Klondike nugget along the muddy streets, and the dancing Oakley sisters, Polly and Lottie, entertained thousands on a rough outdoor platform to the groans of a tiny organ. Jack Smith was starting to pace the riverbank, waiting for his boatload of furnishings for the Monte Carlo.
Ellie, my dear, I have an awful feeling I'm just about out of funds.
Honey, that's impossible. You have a gold mine.
True. Unfortunately, the mine is in the Yukon, and I'm in San Francisco. I'm supposed to buy $20,000 worth of furnishings, liquor, and girlies for the Monte Carlo Dance Hall and Saloon.
Hmm.
And, sweetheart, I just ain't got 20,000.
What?
I don't think I got 2,000 left.
Bastard. What am I going to do? How am I going to get back to Dawson?
Oh, come now, my sweet. I imagine you and your two sisters will find a way. $500 says you'll all be there before me. What bothers me is what Jack Smith is going to say if he doesn't get his furnishings and girls.
You'll find a way to get the girls. You usually do, you pint-sized little cheapskate.
Oh, now that's an unkind thing to call me, sweetheart. After the thousands of dollars I spent on you.
That was yesterday, honey. This is today. A girl's got to look after herself. Goodbye.
I think I still like Gussie the best of all three. Yes, sir, Dr. Wolf. There's a fortune to be made from the gold rush, and without risk. Without any risk at all.
Come now, Mr. Gates, that's a little hard to believe.
No, almost no risk at all. You see, everyone's thinking of the gold rush in terms of finding gold. Now, I've been lucky in that respect. But then, of course, I was in the country before the big strike. But you take it from me. There's a tremendous gamble in prospecting for gold.
I don't understand. You said...
Correct, sir. I said there was a fortune to be made from the gold rush without risk. You'll notice, Doctor, I said from.
I'm afraid I still don't understand.
Well, now look at it this way. Everyone is so interested in making their fortune from digging gold that the one sure field of profit is being largely overlooked, supplying the thousands of stampeders and miners and prospectors. Oh, there's lots of money in the Klondike. Make no mistake about that. And there's lots of people supplying entertainment. But precious few are supplying real needs of the people. Why, do you realize, Doctor, that Dawson City itself is almost as large as either Seattle or Portland, and wealthier than either? And yet, people have been close to starvation. Can't even get the basic necessities of life.
Yeah, I've heard stories.
Can't even get the basic necessities of life.
Can you get supplies in?
Well, thousands of men are going in. I've been in and out several times. Certainly we could get supplies in. Some are, but too few are trying. They're all too interested in getting the gold directly from the ground. And remember, Doctor, the greenhorns, chichacos we call them, the greenhorns, going in by the thousands, are taking millions of dollars in with them. Their inexperience means they frequently don't take enough or don't take the right things. But they only find that out when they get on the trail. And there is nobody there with the supplies they need.
You paint an exciting picture, Mr. Gates.
Well, that's what I know and what I believe. That's why I'm in the process of setting up a trading and transportation company.
Trading and transportation company?
Yes, that's right. And with my experience in the North and my finances, it is, as I said, a sure moneymaker.
Something like that appeals to me. It really does.
Really?
Very much so, Swiftwater. Oh, can I call you that?
Oh, I wish you would.
Just call me Wilbert.
Yeah, fine, Wilbert. Wilbert, I'm waiting for deposits to come down from the Klondike. No, actually, that's why I'm holding off. Sufficient funds won't be in my bank until another 60 days. So now, if you would be interested...
In a partnership?
Yeah, well, I didn't quite have that in mind. I was thinking more of a 90-day note for, say, 10,000 at 100% interest.
100% over 90 days? Well, you must be crazy.
Or pretty sure of myself.
I still want a partnership.
Partnership. I hadn't really thought of that. Not really at all. All right, it's a deal. You give me a note for 90 days at 100% for 10,000, and you put 10,000 into the company. We'll have an equal partnership. You'll get your loan back, and the interest will pay you for your share of the partnership. In short, Wilbert, it will cost you nothing, and you'll share 50-50 in the profits of a sure moneymaker.
It's a real deal, partner.
The sky's the limit. Raise her up as far as you want to go, boys. And if the roof gets in your way, tear it off.
Well, Swiftwater Bill. Things have improved since I saw you last.
Nellie Lamour. And you're still in Frisco?
Obviously. And obviously you're loaded.
Yes, my little dumpling. You could say my fortunes have somewhat improved.
Meaning you found a sucker.
Yes, Sugar Plum, you could say that. A real 24-carat patsy. Let's go to the town.
Swiftwater Bill, you got yourself a date.
Abernathy's my name, sir. Horace Abernathy of the San Francisco Chronicle. I believe you are Dr. Wolf.
That is correct, sir.
I also understand, Doctor, that you're a partner of Swiftwater Bill Gates in some business venture related to the Klondike Gold Rush.
I am.
Well, could I inquire, Doctor, what type of business it is?
Frankly, I'm beginning to wonder myself.
Swiftwater. Yeah. We're almost there. We're all Dawson City. Look at the crowd waiting on the dock. Brass band and all.
Yes, Nellie, my little turtle dove. And I have a nice bevy of beauties and some of the finest whiskey ever distilled. Jack Smith should consider this a good start for our new Monte Carlo dance hall and saloon.
Weren't you supposed to get a few other things in Frisco?
Oh, a few baubles, but there wasn't time to do everything.
Well, we sure as hell did everything else. And every place, too. At least 10 times over.
Oh, dear.
Jack Smith doesn't sound too happy.
No, but I'll soon cheer him up, sweetie pie. Never fear.
Where's my $20,000?
Oh, Dr. Wolf, how did you get here? I thought you were still in Frisco.
I'm damn sure you did. Now, where's my money? You've got exactly 3 hours to pay me back the $20,000. And to hell with the interest.
I'll have it.
Where's the stuff I sent you after? All I see is a few cases of whiskey and a boatload of girls. Where are the furnishings? And where's the velvet carpet and the painting?
No, just a minute, Jack. Surely you can understand how it is.
Oh, I understand, all right. You were living it up in Frisco, making the big shot of yourself on my money.
On whose money? He had $20,000 of mine.
And $10,000 of mine. And God alone knows how much of his own gold he took out of here.
Well...
All right, Gates, where is it? I want what you went after, or the money, or by God, I'll attach your mining profit at the bank and your share of the dance hall to boot.
Oh, now, have a heart, Jack. How am I going to pay off Wolf and you both at the same time and right now? But that's impossible.
Why, you undernourished little runt. You're broke. And to think of the time I wasted with you in Frisco.
Wasted? Helping me spend my money?
Whose money?
Oh, well, a lot of it was mine.
Well, anyway, you miserable bastard, that was yesterday. This is today. And a girl's got to look out for herself. Goodbye.
Yes. A nice girl, actually, but I still think I prefer her sister, Gussie.
Get going and get my money, or I'll have the law here in 3 hours. Starting now.
Oh, I'm going. Anyway, it was a hell of a time I had. Just one hell of a time. By God, it'll be a long time before those people in San Francisco forget Swiftwater Bill Gates. I wonder if anyone ever took a bath in champagne there before. I doubt it. A real good time. And they'll remember me. The king of the Klondike.
And they did remember him. In the Tivoli Theater, John Mulligan, he was the best known of the Klondike impresarios, produced his greatest hit. It was titled The Adventures of Stillwater Willie. With a fine sense of casting, he starred Nellie Lamour in the leading role. and Swiftwater Bill himself would occupy the finest box in the theater and applaud this satire on his career. It didn't matter what the audience thought. He was being noticed. That was what counted. Nellie won a prize that year at a masquerade, dressed in a Prince Albert coat and silk hat with a placard in her back reading, "Stillwater Willie, the mayor of Lowestown." And Gussie was back in town, too. And from the stage of the Monte Carlo, she would sing directly to Swiftwater in his box. Swiftwater continued to add to his own legend. On his next trip to the outside world, he was hailed in the press as the Klondike Prince. He made headlines by offering to bet $7,000 in the turn of a single card with anyone who would challenge him. He attracted the attention of a wealthy widow, ran off with her 15-year-old daughter, arrived back from Dawson, presented his newest love with the only melon in town. It was worth $40, and then proceeded not only to soothe the irate mother who'd followed him to the Klondike, but to extract $50,000 from her, which he plunged into a harem-scarum mining venture. Bankrupt to the tune of $100,000, he decamped to Nome, ran off with his step-niece, recouped his fortunes in another Alaskan mine, was jailed for bigamy in Seattle, and proceeded to sue the lawyers, the sheriffs, the deputies, the judge, and all the reporters by presenting each and all of them with nuggets wrapped in $20 bills. But why go on? Swiftwater Bill's exploits became repetitious with the years. He died in 1935 in Peru. By then, Dawson City was a ghost town. The Monte Carlo was a fruit stand. I remember buying a banana there one June day when the first boat arrived. It was the first fresh fruit I'd seen since the previous September. And there were still quite a few old-timers in that town who remembered Swiftwater Bill Gates and his search for status.
The sky's the limit. Raise her up as far as you want to go, boys. And if the roof's in your way, tear it off.
Klondike, Part 4, with Pierre Burton. Prepared for radio by Bill Fraser. Original music composed and conducted by Tommy Banks. Douglas Master was heard as Bill Gates and Lynn Thornton as Nellie Lamore, with Donald Truss, Bill Berry, Len Crowther, Neil Monroe, Michael Ball, Tim Christensen, Diane Hayden, Gordon Signer, Bob Cruz, Graham McPherson, and Dana Ivey. This program was made available to this station through the facilities of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Canadian Broadcasting Corporation presents the last of a 5-part series based on Pierre Burton's book, Klondike. Prepared for radio by Bill Fraser. Produced and directed by Fred DL. With original music composed and conducted by Tommy Banks. And starring the author himself as our host and guide, writer, broadcaster, Pierre Burton.
The Klondike Gold Rush was a curious mixture of the sacred and the profane, the heroic and the demonic. All of its major figures seem to be larger than life. The rogues and the villains are of the deepest dye. The saints and the heroes, on the other hand, are almost too good to be true. The Great Stampede did that to men. It brought out the best, or it brought out the worst. There didn't seem to be any middle ground.
Klondike by Pierre Burton. Part 5, The Glitter Turns to Tarnish.
Belly up to the bar.
What do you say?
Usual, Gertie.
Fine, Frank.
What'll you have, Mac? Anything with a kick. Coming right up.
Well, let's look at my smile.
You got your diamond ring stuck between your teeth. How about that?
Smile.
Sure does. Sure does.
Look, there's someone over there I have to see. Don't go away. I'll be right back.
Don't worry. I'll be right here. Hurry back, Gertie. Hey, Martin. Here's a couple of things. Right away.
In Dawson, the gold was changing hands. On the creeks, thousands of men were tearing it out of the ground and in a kind of frenzy, rushing into town to spend it. And so the gold slipped from hand to hand as if it was red hot. It poured into Dawson in shiny streams, in greasy pokes of moose hide or in 100-pound sacks strapped to the backs of mules. It was sprayed onto the bars of the front street saloons, shoveled into the purses of the dance hall girls, or flung carelessly onto the gaming tables. The very air glittered with it.
Not bad, Gert. How you doing?
I got a live one. The boys. Oh.
Yeah, the suckers are really fighting tonight. The poor ginks have just got to spend it.
They're all scared they'll die before they get it out of the ground.
Hey, look, there's Vaseline and glycerine hustling that Irishman again tonight.
Wonder how long it will take them to clean him out.
Not long at the rate he's going.
It's kind of nice to have a sister to work the suckers with.
Yeah, keeps it in the family.
All right, you surly bunch of sourdoughs. Pick your partners for one lively polka.
Guess I better get back to Loverboy before some other dame latches on to him. He ain't picked clean yet, but I'm working on it.
I'll bet you are.
Dawson ran on gold. So did its people. Because of gold, they destroyed the countryside, turning the lovely valleys into deserts of bleak gravel. Because of gold, they faced typhoid, malaria, frostbite, and scurvy. The steaming, undrained swamp on which the boomtown rested, rank with undisposed sewage, spread disease. The sick jammed into St. Mary's Hospital, using every available cot, filling the hallways, and even crowding the Jesuit missionary in charge, Father William Judge, the Saint of Dawson, as they call him, out of his own Spartan bedroom.
Sister Marguerite?
Yes, Father.
Sister, do you know who left these blankets?
Blankets, Father?
Yes, 3 bundles. Here, at the door.
Well, I have no idea, Father. They weren't there a few moments ago.
Strange.
A very timely gift, I must say. At least now we have something to cover those 20 patients you admitted earlier today.
It's a miracle, Sister. The Lord has answered our prayers. It is wonderful.
Yes, Father. And we'll need them. Why you would take in more patients than we can accommodate is beyond me. Well, you've even given up your own bed.
Sister Marguerite, you sometimes lack faith. It's a miracle, I tell you. See, the blankets are here.
More likely some Klondike king's conscience was bothering him after squandering a fortune on those wicked women in those terrible saloons.
Does it matter where God performs his miracles? Not only do you lack faith in the Lord, sister, but sometimes you show so little for his children, your fellow man.
If the Lord is able to touch the conscience of these people, then it will indeed be a miracle.
Sister Marguerite, you are tired.
I'm sorry, Father, but I must speak out. Right here, in this hospital, while you deny yourself the basic necessities of life, even your own bed, our male nurses and staff members are robbing us blind, borrowing money from dying patients, knowing they won't have to pay it back, sending their watches out for repair, hoping to claim them when the owner dies, drinking the brandy and the whiskey meant for typhoid patients, then claiming it is not time for their medicine.
Sister, it is enough. You have no proof of this.
I'm sorry, Father.
You've been working far too hard.
Oh, excuse me, Father Judge.
Come in, George, come in. Mrs. Farmer, nice to see you.
Sister Marguerite?
Mr. Noble, Mrs. Farmer.
Father Judge, we represent the Benefit Committee.
Benefit Committee?
Yes, Father. The people of Dawson are organizing a hospital benefit show on Christmas night. We hope to make enough to take care of at least some of the hospital debts.
We've got a wonderful minstrel show lined up, Father. And miracle of miracles, Joe Cooper has offered us his Tivoli Theater free. Never thought Joe would do that. The best paying night of the year.
Oh, I see.
The people are kind of hoping that you'll be there as our guest of honor, so to speak.
Guest of honor? Oh, I don't think that's necessary. But certainly I'll be there.
Oh, fine. And the people of Dawson would also like you to accept this suit, sealskin coat, cap, and gloves as sort of a Christmas present from all of us. We appreciate how much you do for Dawson.
Oh, I am sorry, Mrs. Farmer. That is very good of everyone. But as I told the tailor you sent around the other day for my measurements, as a Jesuit priest, I can neither own chattels nor accept gifts. I am sorry.
But, Father, couldn't you make one exception? You only have your black cassock, and it's almost worn out.
I am terribly sorry, but I cannot accept it. You know that, sister.
The people of Dawson will be disappointed, Father. Oh, it's not the fact they figured you needed some warm clothes for this country.
I am grateful for the gesture, of course, but I cannot accept.
We understand, Father Judge, but the only thing is, most of the donations for these clothes came from the Protestants of Dawson. It's going to be hard to explain to them.
Protestant donors, you say? That will be difficult to explain, Mrs. Farmer. We wouldn't want to be accused of exhibiting religious intolerance. I'm sure I don't know what you can say to them.
Please take them, Father Judge, and Happy Christmas.
Well, in this case, I suppose it is the lesser of two evils. Thank you.
We'll expect you on Christmas night then, Father, as our guest of honor.
I'll be there. Thank you.
So long for now, then.
Goodbye, Father. Sister?
Mrs. Farmer?
Goodbye.
See you at the benefit.
A hospital benefit?
Well, I'd better get these blankets unpacked and the beds made up for those new patients. So much to do, and I can do so little. God gives me strength, but for how much longer I do not know.
I'll look after the blankets and the beds, Father. Please go and take some rest. You don't look well at all. And you must be fit for Christmas night.
Perhaps I will. Thank you, Sister Marguerite.
And, Father.
Yes?
Please forgive me for doubting your miracles.
City. I'm glad you're enjoying the show. And there's more to come. But right now, well, I'm sure you all know why we're here tonight. To honor a man who is far better than any of us. I see you all agree. I know I don't need to tell you how much he's done for this community. working day and night, serving us all, rich or poor, regardless of our race and religion. And I know you hope as I do that the proceeds from this show will help in some small way to pay off some of the hospital debts and to make life a little easier for the conscience of the Klondike. That grand old man of Dawson, Father William Judge.
Standing ovation for Father William Judge in the Tivoli Theater, Dawson City, Christmas night, 1898, lasted a full 5 minutes. And that was the only time he ever appeared in his new clothes. The following day, he was seen once again wearing his threadbare cassock. In the gaming rooms, the gold never stopped circulating. After all, the whole stampede itself had been an enormous gamble. Men who'd struggled through 2 winters to wrest the gold from the ground thought nothing of tossing it all away casually on the turn of a single card. One game could cost a player between $50,000 or $75,000. And yet, although they treated the gold offhandedly as if it were so much sand, the stampeders are always ready to look for more. The slightest whisper of a new find could send hundreds of them trudging up and down the river or across the hills in the bitterest weather, and often on a wild goose chase.
Hey, Chijarko. There's Nigger Jim and Skiff Mitchell over there in front of the Aurora Saloon. Come on, I want to see them.
Nigger Jim, they're both white, Charlie.
Oh, and he's the whitest looking of the two. The big blonde.
Well, then why do they call him Nigger Jim?
Wait till you hear him speak. He's from Missouri, and he sounds like he ought to be singing colored spirituals. How you doing, Jim? Skiff?
How's the diggings, Charlie?
You fellows know Chijarko here?
Howdy.
Andy Austin? Oh, this is Skiff Mitchell.
Hello, Andy.
And Nigger Jim Doherty.
Howdy. Doherty.
Jim has got so much gold he doesn't know what to do with it all.
Oh, the Oakley sisters helped me get rid of a lot of it.
Oh, yeah.
But since I bought the 2 saloons, I get lots of the pleasure money back myself.
Oh, you got it made, Jim. Mine the gold from the ground and take it out of the miners in the saloons.
Yeah.
Say, that was some benefit the town had for Father Judge.
And no more than he deserved.
Amen.
That's right.
What we'd do around here without him, I don't know.
Well, we may soon find out. He doesn't look good at all. He's in bed with pneumonia, I hear. Somehow I don't think he's going to make it.
He'll pull through.
Yeah. I always feel he's like the town conscience. The good side. You look at him and you feel a lot better.
That's right.
You remember that you belong to the same race. Every man in this world isn't trying to beat his neighbor.
I guess we all feel that way, Charlie.
Well, this has sure turned into a gloomy conversation. Well, I know it's too bad that their father's sick, but moaning won't help.
I suppose.
Well, I doubt he's want us to anyway.
Yeah, you're right. Say, there hasn't been any new strikes in this area lately. I wonder if the boom is running out.
You know, I've been wondering the same thing myself. Get the kind of feeling I had just before 40 Mile and Circle City turned into ghost town.
Well, are you saying you think Dawson could become a ghost town?
Overnight.
Oh, that's crazy. It's one of the biggest cities in the whole Northwest. Canada or the United States.
It could vanish in a flash. It's happened to many a mining town.
Then let's give it a shot in the arm.
What do you mean, Jim?
Oh, Chichaco. Bob Crandall at the Nugget is getting some figures for me. How'd you like to run over and pick 'em up?
Sure.
Well, you might have to wait a minute. Here's $25. You can have a few while you're waiting.
Wow. Sure thing, Mr. Doherty. See you later.
What's on your mind, Jim?
Yeah.
I've been thinking things are getting too dull around here. I figured it might be a little fun to start a stampede. It just liven up the action.
You lost me, Jim. How are you going to start a stampede?
Supposing we plan a story.
Yeah?
You can find it with the Chaco when it gets back. That I have a map showing a creek where there's been a big new discovery.
Oh, Chaco would never tell anyone.
To hell they wouldn't. Try and keep a secret in this town.
All right.
Yeah.
Count me in on the prank.
Hear about the new strike? Strike? Where? A creek up the river somewhere. Nigger Jim knows. Yeah, Nigger Jim. Prospect, that's so. Yeah. They tell me the old boy had a polka dust. Go. My God, I'm gonna get in on this one.
Go.
Need a new pair of snowshoes, Sam.
Green bacon.
Salt. Can't find a gold pan, pick or shovel anywhere.
Coffee. Sam, you know where I can get some
What about the snowshoes?
flour?
I need that gold pan.
Flour.
Right. How about the...
You fellas got the Yukon stoves, tents, and robes all packed?
All set. They'll be enclosed like Roman generals.
Good. You're gonna need 'em this 6 to below weather. All right. Let's go.
Of all the bizarre incidents that illuminate the Klondike saga, the Nigger Jim stampede is the most grotesque. When Jim swallowed his 8th whiskey and soda in the Aurora Saloon at 11 p.m. on January 10, 1899, and joined the newly harnessed dog teams waiting along Front Street, half the town was in on the secret. 50 sleds picked up his trail along the frozen Yukon River. Behind those sleds came more struggling figures, muffled to the eyebrows in the bitter 60 below weather. It was as if these men were bent on reenacting for themselves the full drama of '98. Because, you know, the Nigger Jim stampede, with its wild rumors, its sudden frenzy, its optimism and despair, its trials and its yearnings, and its ultimate irony, was a scale model of the gold rush itself. For all but the unanointed few, it was a horror. For they went totally unprepared, in the worst cold of the winter, struggling up a miniature Chilkoot Pass in search of a treasure that did not exist. Some bore the scars of this stampede all of their lives, hideously maimed by frostbite and privation. And meanwhile, in the hospital under the hill, the Saint of Dawson clung precariously to life, while in the dance halls along Front Street, the Nigger Jim stampede took its place on the stage as another Klondike legend.
To their thighs and a 6 to below weather. I tell you, these people would go anywhere, do anything, just at the mention of gold. Green cup, everybody! On me!
Count me out, Jim. I think I'll go over to the hospital and see how far the judge is getting along.
All right, Skip. Say hello for me, will you?
I sure will.
And me.
You bet.
I hope you won't stay long, Mr. Mitchell.
I won't, sister.
He's very low. I don't think he has much longer. Oh, this way.
Thank you.
We're so very busy right now. Many who went on that stampede were in bad condition when they returned. Terrible hoax. It may have been very funny for some, but not to these people in here. Frostbite, exposure. I understand that you went well prepared.
Yes. We were lucky, I guess.
Father Judge is in here.
Thank you, sister.
Remember, not too long.
Certainly. Hello, Father. How are you feeling?
I'm afraid my work here is done.
Oh, it can't be.
Are you crying?
Oh, we've been friends ever since I came into the country.
That's no reason for sorrow, is it?
We can't afford to lose old friends like you.
You've got what you came for. I, too, have been working for a reward. Would you keep me from it?
You sound anxious to die, old friend.
The decision isn't mine.
I'm not a Catholic, as you know, Father. But I'll pray for you.
You may do what you please. But I am going to die. Pray for my soul, my friend. My body is finished.
Mr. Mitchell, come along now, please. He's terribly weak and terribly tired.
Certainly, sister.
He lies in there dying, while the town is in the dance halls and saloons celebrating. No, I'm not as good a person as Father Judge. I can't see good where he can. All I can see is that this country and the wicked people in it killed him, and I can't see that any of you are worth it.
Sister, you may not believe it, but right this minute, I can't either. But I think somehow his life has been worthwhile. After this madness is over, many people will be a little better for having known him.
I trust you are right, Mr. Mitchell. I pray to God you are. Otherwise, there isn't much sense in anything, is there?
Dawson lasted as a metropolis for exactly 12 months, from July 1898 to July 1899. Before that, it was nothing more than a huddle of shacks and tents, and after that, it subsided into a ghost town. Already there were rumors of another, richer strike far down the Yukon River, almost 2,000 miles away, on Norton Sound. No one knew for sure whether these rumors were true, but that really did not matter. The human leakage had begun.
Jim, I just heard. Father Judge is dead.
By God. If the whole town slipped into the river, it couldn't be more of a shock.
He bought a $1,000 casket. I think it's only right he's buried decently.
Well, it's finished. Lord, it was hard digging.
2.5 days to hack a grave out of that frozen ground.
Things seem to be changing here. I've a funny feeling the boom's about over.
Oh, the news from Norton Sound seems good. If it's confirmed, there'll be a real exodus, just like when the Klondike strike emptied Circle City and 40 Mile.
Harry, set us up a couple more.
Coming right up.
It sure is quiet in here, even for this time of the morning.
Ah, yes, it's hard to believe, really. I mean, all this could vanish, you know.
I found it hard to believe Father Judge could die.
Mm-hmm.
Not until I saw them lower that casket into the ground.
Yeah, that was sure some casket.
Like everything else here, the best money can buy. But I doubt if all this wealth will do most of us any more good than that casket did Father Judge.
You said that at the time of the funeral, Skiff. Why?
If you don't know Charlie, you never knew Father Judge. And you don't know what's really wrong with Dawson City.
Listen, who's talking about what's wrong with Dawson City? You ain't any different from any of us.
Not a damn bit better. And the thought of that scares hell out of me.
A few weeks after Father Judge's death, the town experienced its own inferno. A tongue of flame burst from the bedroom of a dance hall girl, and within minutes the entire center of the city was in flames. There was no way to stop it. The water froze in the hoses before it reached the nozzles, and as the expanding ice tore them into shreds, a moan of despair escaped from the crowd, who realized the city was doomed. Half freezing, half roasting, they stood like lost souls on the edge of the pit, their faces glowing redly in the reflected light of the vagrant flames. Before their eyes, Dance Hall Row, with all its memories, crumbled away and was gone. The fires so hot that nuggets, gold dust, gamblers, jewels, stick pins, watches, bracelets, and the diamonds of dance hall queens, all kept for safekeeping in the bank safe, were fused inseparably into a molten mass.
Hi, Flossie. You heading downriver too? Heading to Nome, dearie. That's where the action's going. 8,000 people left here last week. No percentage for a working girl staying when the money's leaving.
My sentiments exactly. And we won't have to get to know a new bunch of suckers. All the old ones will be where we're going.
The town was rebuilt, but it was never again the same. The news from the golden sands of Nome was confirmed by midsummer. In a single week, in August of 1899, 8,000 people left Dawson City forever. No more multitudes had arrived. The word Klondike had lost its magic. In the outside world, it had suddenly become an epithet of contempt and derision. Too many men had returned with tales of heartache and frustration. And yet some men stayed on, not for the gold, but simply because they had learned to love the wilderness and freedom of the land itself. These were men who had learned the real lessons of the stampede. It was not the gold at all that they were seeking, so it turned out, but themselves. They learned a lot about themselves in those chill slopes and in those frothing river rapids. And what they learned gave them a contentment and a stability far more valuable than the false treasures of Bonanza and El Dorado. My father was one of these men. He spent 40 years in the Klondike. He found no gold, but he never regretted a single instant.
Klondike, Part 5, with Pierre Burton. Prepared for radio by Bill Fraser. Original music composed and conducted by Tommy Banks. Christopher Newton was heard as Father Judge, Ted Stidder as Nigger Jim, Marie Hotans as Sister Marguerite, and Essa W. Young as Charlie Anderson. This program was made available to this station through the facilities of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.